G'day everyone, this is Bede, aka the Terrible Aussie, and welcome to a very special Christmas edition of Podcasters the Horror, the podcast where myself and my co-host Super Marcey dissect horror, anthology, film, and TV shows. And with me as always is my very awesome co-host, the one, the only Super Marcey. Hello Marcey, how are you?
Hello, yes. Here we are once again. We're back again. Tell a friend.
Indeed. It has been quite a while since we last did a Podcasters of Horror episode. It has been a few months, so we apologize for all of our listeners of this show for the long delay in this new episode. But to be fair, though, pretty much ever since August, things have been completely hectic on both our ends for different reasons. So
Very much so.
It has been a bit all over the place in terms of trying to get the show back up, so hence why we've been doing mainly super podcast episodes rather than all our other kind of spin-off shows, because, those ones take a lot more time and commitment to do, and we just didn't have the time to do a lot of them. But we will be back to our regular schedule program next year, though. But in the meantime, though, we're here, our listeners, to give you a very special Christmas episode of Podcasters of Horror, because we, in this episode, are going to be reviewing the brand new Christmas-themed horror anthology film that has just been released, which, of course, is The Christmas Tapes.
Yes, we are.
Indeed. So we're going to be reviewing that, and also we got some very special bonuses as well that we are very excited about that we're going to get into. Since the movie has only just come out, we won't be going too spoilery into it, so we're just going to do a review of it. So we'll get straight to it and talk about The Christmas Tapes, which of course is a 2002 horror anthology film that was written and directed by Robert Livings and Randy Nundlall Jr., and the film stars Greg Sestero, Vernon Wells, Dave Sheridan, and so many more. And the plot summary for this one is: in this Christmas horror anthology, a family's movie night on Christmas Eve is interrupted by a stranger insistent on making the next Christmas classic film himself. Now, Marcy, when we sat down to watch The Christmas Tapes, we weren't sure what to expect from this film. The only thing we kind of knew that it's a horror anthology film that features a lot of actors that you and I are fans of.
Yeah. Like
Greg Sestero from The Room, legendary Australian actor Vernon Wells from Commando and The Shrimp on the Barbie. And of course, Dave Sheridan, best known for playing Officer Doofy in Scary Movie. So I guess, Marcy, to start us off with, what are your thoughts on The Christmas Tapes?
Yeah, so we clearly love our horror anthology. Hence we have a podcast about horror anthology, because we like watching them and discussing them and all that jazz. So of course, something called The Christmas Tapes that is a horror anthology. It's like, yeah, I'm going to give this a try. Finding out, though, it's like a found footage style horror anthology, I was a bit more intrigued. I'm like, okay, I wonder how they're going to do this. And this actually turned out to be a really good example of your suspension of disbelief just wasn't really there, because you can kind of get why people are filming things. Maybe they're being forced to, they're doing something, and, people are just so caught up in documenting everything more so now than it was when this phenomenon really blew up. So for me, it was very believable, and it didn't take me out of the film like some found footage films have done before. I kind of do have a love-hate relationship with found footage horror, but I do appreciate it. I do appreciate what people try to do, but I need to believe that you're holding this camera for a reason, and this film, I wasn't really thinking that, so I gotta really give them props for that. And it is kind of like a very dark, like, horror comedy, when we have the kind of the wraparound segment, which features Greg Sestero and this family. It just feels so unsettling. You really wouldn't want this, the character that Greg Sestero is playing in your house. he might look nice, but he ain't playing nice. So I think that was well done. It's interesting. You're like, I don't understand what's going on with this dude, but I'll roll with it. And then as you see kind of like where the kind of individual segments fit in, it's like, okay, I get it. And it's really interesting. It has more of an old school feel, even though it's not quite. I mean, you do have some VHS tapes in there. It's called the Christmas tapes. And yeah, some of these segments legit made us jump, which doesn't happen very often between the pair of us. So I absolutely appreciated that. But each segment really had its own thing. I felt like the actors in them were very natural, and certain chemistries felt right between characters. So our first one kind of is a bit Blair Witch feel, and it was done really interesting. We sort of both thought there was a bit of a Stuffings vibe, which was one we it was a horror film that we did discuss last year on a different podcast. The second one, I'm trying to remember. I don't think it had a feel for anything in particular, actually. I do remember which one it was now. It's in my head. I've got it. Where we do have a Santa Claus character played by Vernon Wells. And again, like, this feels unsettling. You don't know where it's going. When it does go somewhere, you're like, holy fucking shit. Really well done. There is a very short segment, and that one's just like, what the hell? And bam. And I think the final segment is the longest one. And again, it's kind of like a Paranormal Activity type of vibe, but very different. And you don't know where this one's going. And when the segment itself is called Paranormal Perry. When this character shows up, you really don't know what's going to happen. It's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. Like, you can tell this is something that's low budget, but the passion for it was absolutely there, and they made it work. I was really freaking impressed, and I enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah, I have to agree.
My ramblings, anyway.
Well, I gotta say, I really enjoyed it as well. Like, when I kind of heard about the film and kind of saw some of the footage and all that, I thought, it's kind of going for that sort of VHS vibe, like the VHS series, and having kind of a similar setup as well with VHS tapes as well. But I think what makes this one work compared to, say, some of the other entries in that franchise is, like, it finds a good balance between how it approaches its segments and stories. And I have to say, all the segments are actually really strong on their own. Even, like, the very small one that literally goes for, like, maybe less than 5 minutes, which is called The Glitchy Gamer. That one, it was like, it kind of came and went so fast, and even you and I, when we were watching it, we were kind of taken aback, because it was like, oh, that just happened. Like, we enjoy. And all the segments are pretty strong, and also the wraparound segment with Greg Sestero, like, was pretty creepy and also quite intense. But it's kind of interesting seeing Greg in this role, because as you know, we've seen him in The Room, we've seen him in the Best Fiend films and other works as well. So it's kind of interesting to kind of see him do something different and doing a role which is using his kind of trademark charm and using that for a much more sinister advantage. And he does a great job, because I found him really creepy the wraparound.
He was very unsettling. I'm like, dude, please don't come to my Christmas.
But the thing is, though, and you and I have discussed this before, is that a lot of the characters in some of these segments are like that. They kind of start off being one thing, but then as the story progresses along, they become progressively creepier. But you don't know whether that is for sinister reasons or for good reasons. And also it has that, the film, each of the segments have that kind of unpredictable factor to them as well, because you're never quite sure exactly where they're going to go. Like, you have a bit of an idea, but how it gets there, it kind of switches gears and does surprise you. And also with the tone of the film, because besides, like, it is very much true, you and I did jump quite a lot during this film. And even I was surprised by that, because I was not expecting a film like this to make me jump. But it has a good balance between being creepy, but also funny as well. And I think it's
does. It has a very dark humor. Like, it's gonna depend where your dark humor meter is. But if you're like me and Bede and it's like right down there, you'll be laughing at a lot of things that others probably might not laugh at. But I think that's what works, because it's either gonna make you laugh or it's gonna scare the shit out of you, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And with the segments, and for those out there, I'm not sure what the segments are. They're like the wraparound, of course, but also you have Travel Buddies, Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus, the Glitchy Gamer, and the last segment, Paranormal Perry. These segments, they are a lot of fun. They tackle kind of horror in different ways. So they're again, they're very well acted by the cast. Like of course, the three big names attached to this film, of course, Greg Sestero, but also Aussie legend Vernon Wells, who plays Santa Claus in his segment. He's great in that one as well, and also gets to keep his Australian accent as well.
Creepy Aussie Santa, it's a thing.
And also, but I gotta say this, Marcey, like in the last segment with Dave Sheridan playing Paranormal Perry, I'm just gonna state it right now. That's a performance in my world should be given an Oscar, because it is so good. And again, he finds that good balance between being funny but also kind of creepy at the same time. So
he nailed this whole thing of like awkwardness. Like, you probably don't want this dude in your home, kind of thing. But he's very funny. He is weirdly like charismatic as this character. And the laughs are so there. Like, it really works. It's this... It just, everything comes together like really well. And like, well, when we were watching this, we didn't know. We found out this after the fact, which people will get to hear very soon about it a bit more, that a lot of stuff was improvised. There was no like written script for like dialogue and that, so the actors kind of just improvised a lot of things. And I think that actually adds to his very natural approach and like surprise when someone does something and another character's like, wait, what? It just works really well. Like, I think just having like the talent pool that they had for this film, like everyone's great. And they just seem to have this natural ability to just work together. Even with, if they weren't given a lot of time and just improv these scenes, like, I was really blown away, I gotta say.
Yeah, for me too. This was absolutely a pleasant surprise for me. Again, I wasn't sure what to expect, because that's, again, like, even though I'm probably more of a fan of found footage horror films than you are, but again, I can even say at the same time, they can be a mixed bag. For every good one you get, you can get one that's equally bad. And of course, like, it always comes down to the main factor is like, does it make sense within the story why these characters are still filming? But I guess now, given over the last 10 years with people, you know, with their phones, video cameras, or just, you know, social media and that, it probably is more believable now that people would start filming something and not put the camera down. So it's kind of like me kind of remembering that in the context of today's world. So... I mean, and, you know, like
all you need to do is you go on a social media network of any description. You will see like some random video and it's like someone being attacked, but nobody's helping because they're busy filming it on their phone. And that's the kind of things people will do in this day and age. So, yeah, a lot of this shit is very believable because people would fucking keep their cameras on.
Exactly.
We've seen it.
Exactly. And it's you just kind of have to remember that when you watch any kind of found footage film, especially now. But I think this movie does a really good job, again, like making sense for the characters to keep shooting the stuff that they're shooting. But also, like you say, it has that kind of naturalistic feel to it that makes it feel very believable, and it doesn't feel scripted as well. And it's just a really solid found footage horror film that is both entertaining and creepy. Like, it does a good job at doing that while also being equally funny as well.
I think this is easily, like, with horror anthology from the last few years, like, for me, this is probably going to be, like, right up there as one of my favorites, because I just think it works so damn well. Very freaking impressed.
Yeah, I was very impressed by it. And being that it is set around Christmas, the film, and they do use Christmas to its full advantage through a lot of the stories in it, I could definitely see this, as we all know, like Christmas-themed horror films, or any holiday-themed horror films, always get immediately more embraced than other types of horror films. So I look forward to seeing people kind of find this one, and that it I wouldn't be surprised if it does get a bit of a cult following, and it becomes a staple in some people's Christmas horror rotation every year.
Yeah, it'll definitely be on mine, that's for sure.
Yeah, and also I think we can sort of wrap up our little review of this film. So Marcy, what are your final thoughts and rating overall for the Christmas tapes?
Yeah, as I said, like, I had a lot of fun. I thought this was great. If you do like found footage, or even if you're like me and you kind of are a little bit skeptical with it at times, maybe it's a love-hate relationship, like, I do think this one genuinely deserves to be seen. Like, I do love my independent cinema and supporting, people that don't have all the money in the world to make films, but they make something very special. And yeah, this one just warms my cold heart. So definitely check it out when you can. If you can, make sure you can. This gets a very solid Officer Doofies. 4 Officer Doofies out of 5 for my rating.
I got to give this about at least 4 let off some steam Bennett's out of 5. Because it is a lot of fun. It's very hilarious and also creepy as well. Don't be surprised if you jump in it as like we did when we were watching it. And it's just a solid, fun little found footage horror film that has some pretty solid stories in it. And yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you're looking for something during the festive season in terms of horror to watch. I definitely recommend it. And now the film is kind of a bit more readily available now because it is sort of streaming on quite a different streaming platforms. And even our good friends over at JoBlo.com have the film up on their movie section of their YouTube page, so you can watch the entire film for free. And yeah, it's definitely worth checking out if anyone's interested. I will say we are being a bit vague because this movie has been released, but maybe at some point in the future for Podcasters of Horror, we'll do a much more in-depth review on the film and its segments, because we don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, definitely. It's so good to go on it without knowing much at all and just let it happen. It's so much fun. Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah, and the great thing about Christmas horror movies is you just watch them whenever the fuck you want. It doesn't need to be Christmas.
Exactly, but it does give you that festive feeling, even if you watch them at any time of the year. Exactly. So, but so that's a wrap on our review on the Christmas tapes. But that's not all we had for our listeners, right, Marcy?
That is
we
correct.
have not 1 but 2 surprises for this episode. Is that we had an opportunity to interview not 1 but 2 stars from this film, and those we got to interview Dave Sheridan and Vernon Wells separately. So yeah, we had a great time doing both these interviews, and since we kind of did them separately, we will have them both back to back. So for first up, we're going to play Dave Sheridan's interview, and he was a very last-minute addition, because originally when the interviews were being organized, he wasn't available, but he was able to at the last minute, so we were able to do that. So here is our interview with Dave Sheridan. We have a very special guest that we're talking to today, who is one of the stars of the latest film, The Christmas Tapes, and you may recognize him as the star of many classic films, such as Scary Movie, Ghost World, The Devil's Rejects, and so many more. And that, of course, is Dave Sheridan. Hello, Dave. How are you?
Hello. Thanks for having me. Thank you. I'm excited to be on.
Yay!
But I guess to start off this interview, Dave, we both, Marcy and I, had just recently watched the Christmas Tapes. We really enjoyed it a lot. So tell us, how did you get involved with the project?
I actually don't remember. And we only shot it in June. So I think Rob just somehow he got my phone number or something, the director Rob, and he called me or texted me. Yeah.
And what did he tell you?
I never asked him, like, hey, how'd you get? But apparently he's, at the same truck stops I'm at in the bathroom. So he must have my phone number somewhere.
And one of the things I most enjoy, because I really enjoyed all the segments, but what I really most enjoyed about yours is it kind of starts off being almost like a paranormal activity style of story. Right. And it is like that for the first couple minutes of it, but then your character is introduced, Paranormal Perry, and then it basically from there the segment goes completely haywire in the best possible way. Yeah. So tell us about how you approach the character of Paranormal Perry, because he pretty much for us it was the standout of the film.
Yeah, well, it's interesting how I first of all, we improvised the entire, all the segments I believe were all improvised because I don't think Rob had a script for any of them, but I wasn't privy to the rest of the shorts. In fact, I've only seen my section so I could talk about it because I'm going to the premiere here in America on Wednesday and I wanted to basically be able to enjoy the stuff that I haven't seen, in front of an audience and stuff. Just like, because it'll be fun. And so we shot up in Sacramento. It was a 1-day shoot. And originally the pitch that he sent me, it was myself and Felissa Rose. And we were going to play these bickering husband and wife ghost hunters that show up to this other couple's house on Christmas Eve. But then there was a situation with scheduling and Felissa couldn't make it. So, but Rob was like, we already have the house, we have the camera guys and, the other actors. So I said, all right, I'll come up. And I wanted to avoid traffic from Los Angeles. So I left at like 10 p.m. and I arrived in Sacramento at 3:30 a.m. But I forgot, and I was going to stay at a hotel that they got me, but I forgot to call the hotel ahead of time. And it was one of these Holiday Inn Expresses where the only way you get in after 11 p.m. or midnight is if you already checked in with a card to open the door, that they didn't have an employee at the desk. So I'm like, oh, there's nobody here. I look, it's 3:30. My call time was 8, which meant I have to kind of start getting going at 7. So I'm like, all right, I'm looking at 3 hours anyway. So I go and sleep in my car and then I go to set. And really, we didn't know where the character was going to go because he was no longer a married couple. And then that's when we shot in chronological order. So it was just kind of saying, well, who is this guy then? Who's available on Christmas Eve and Christmas morning? And I don't know anything about paranormal lingo and stuff. So I said, look, I'm really going to wing it in terms of what the things are called. And it's going to be clear I don't know what I'm doing. So it's sort of like, then why would they hire this guy? And so that's really where everything sort of took off from with the character, because it was sort of like, well, maybe they didn't hire him. They hired someone else. And he shows up because the guy, they looked at his website and he looks qualified. Wow, he comes with recommendations and let's hire him. But he's on vacation and he farms it out to Perry, so then Perry shows up and everything else. And it really all stemmed, a lot of it came from me sleeping in my car because I slept in my car and then Rob didn't have a picture car. So he's like, okay, you're just going to be arriving at the door because we don't have a car for you to pull up in, because I drive a Prius. He goes, I don't think a Prius is right for the character. And so let's say your car's a while away. And so then it's sort of like, well, why did he have to walk there? You know what I mean? Why doesn't he drive? Where's this all? So it all kind of, as those questions come up about the character, then you answer them and we put that information out into the film, which built the storyline, really.
It did.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the things. Oh, you go first, Marcey.
I was just going to say, I think Paranormal Perry might be my new favorite movie character.
Yeah. We're talking about, bringing him back in a bigger way or something like that. Because, no spoiler alerts, but I don't think he's dead. Let's just put it that way, So,
Well, I was going to say, like, the idea of how it, with the character, sort of coming up, like, who this character is, like, basically on the spot. That's kind of what really appealed to me about not just your segment of the film, but
right,
all the other segments, is when we get
right.
introduced to, say, the main character, there is a very much an unpredictable factor to a lot of these characters. And with your
Yeah,
character in particular, like, the way how he is, you're never really sure, like, is he going to actually help these people, or is he somehow involved with the supernatural elements
right.
in this house? Like, and that was kind of what, the both of us were kind of just on edge about, because we don't know if this guy is going to
Yeah.
be like a good guy or a villain. And I think that's like one of the things that really appealed to
You
me as a
know,
viewer.
and one of the things about that, which I just realized, because I have seen clips from the other stories, since this one's at the end, and then you're watching the other tapes, and then you have the Jeff character already being somebody that like is tied up a family and forcing them to
Mm.
watch. And I know it's the last one coming up, but I think those setups sort of make you also, it sets you up to go, oh boy, what is this guy going to be about?
Mm.
I mean,
Mm.
he's got to be sick. He's got to be twisted somehow because of the previous ones with like Vernon
Yeah.
Wells and stuff like that. So I think that actually comes to play, because I think if you just watched it on its own, I do believe that you would still have that twist of what's he about? There's something there's dark stuff that he's not revealing to these people. But ultimately, with me, I just wanted to create a character as we were doing it that was like, I didn't know what I was doing. And we knew that was going to be clear. So it was more like, I was kind of going like, okay, it's a what about Bob? It's the cable guy. It's the John
Mm.
Candy character from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. But there was a little bit of like the Frighteners with like,
Mm.
Michael J. Fox of, that was my only thing was like, is he setting up the stuff that's even happening there to give him a reason to even be there?
Mm.
Like, is he, because that was one of my thoughts, was like in the back of my head, like that might not be answered. But the idea was about halfway through when they tried to fire me, it's sort of like, here's a couple on Christmas dealing with clearly she's being possessed, there's paranormal stuff, and it's like, and it's scary, like not scary, but like meaning like you wouldn't want that happening in your house. You'd go, hey, let's go get a hotel room for the night. Why would they continue to stay there? You know what I mean? They're just dumb as me in a weird way. It's like, can't we just go get a Motel 6 and let Perry do the sage and just gut it? Aren't we gonna redo this house anyway? It's kind of crappy. So maybe they should have just gutted the house. But the thing is, it's sort of like they decide that Perry is the worst deal than the spirits and the paranormal stuff they're dealing with.
Mm.
Like, I'd rather fire him and lock him out of the house and leave the spirits inside, so that part's funny. I come break it in the back.
Now, I know this is not your first time dealing with a found footage film dealing with the supernatural, because you, of course, were in the haunted house films, like a haunted house films. So how does
Yeah,
this
both of them.
compare working on this film to that one? Because I can imagine even though, yeah, there's a lot of similarities between the two of them, but there would be differences as well.
Yeah, I mean, especially that I guess you had a lot of improvisation, and
Yeah, there
you
was no
wouldn't have seen
script.
the other or known the other segments as well. So it's like your own little thing.
Yeah, no, because both Haunted House 1 and Haunted House 2 were also unscripted. They did have, but they had a way more, I would call it a Bible or an outline or scriptment, they might call it, because we definitely knew, we knew our characters. We knew where we were going, because that film involved a lot of stunts and pre-production and making sure stuff is there, so we didn't go too far out. Like in the first haunted house, I think the biggest thing that maybe was like me looking around going, hey, let's make something funny out of this, was when we were in the basement and there was the shake weight and all of his gadgets and stuff that were still packed away in the basement. We were looking through there going like, oh, let's make a joke of this. In this particular case, say the Christmas tapes, when I put together the Christmas ornament again for her, trying to do something nice, that was just a spur of the moment. I was like, we were taking a break. I think we had lunch and maybe there was some, get back into makeup, or they were putting the cat scratches on me. And I was like, oh, what if I try to put this back together for her, like do something nice, but yet it still won't come out right. But because I came up with that idea right on the spot, there was no glue. We were in an empty house. And nobody was like, oh my gosh, I have a kit of makeup, and the makeup artist had spirit gum. So I started trying to do it with spirit gum and a hair dryer, and it was not sticking. In fact, it wasn't even drying. So now it became a big sticky mess. And so I went in the garage of the house, and they were like, what is he doing digging around in these other people's stuff? Because someone did own that house, but there was storage, containers. I was going through going, I know I got to find glue, caulking, something, but I did find tape. And so I just wrapped it. I could screw it. It's already a mess anyway. And it would be, again, it's one of those Bob Ross happy accidents of Perry put together the most hideous thing, thinking that it's beautiful. You know what I mean? And so I taped it up, and we used it in the film. So that's an element that we were able to do on this film with a lot more freedom than, say, Haunted House 1 or Haunted House 2, which the dialogue was improvised, our verbal jokes, but what the gags were they were way pre-written, you know what I'm saying, in those two movies. So
and this one was more like kind of up to you and everyone
oh man, it was
to just come up with something. I mean,
yeah, really on a run and gun. I wish I probably can go back to my emails and print out what he sent me, which was like, you knock on the door, you enter house, they show you where the bell is, like you put up cameras. That's all it was. I was like, what are we doing? So, yeah.
Well, I think one of my
for some excellent choices.
Well, the thing is, and they edited it fairly quick because it's not their first time doing the found footage stuff, so they have it sort of down. But we probably shot 3 times as much footage that's there, because we do scenes over and over again, and then it's like you're just okay, wash, rinse, repeat, spew out some more blither and diarrhea for the editor, which was Randy, to cut together. So really a big part of what we did was also put together in post in terms of the timing and the choices and stuff like that. So it wasn't all just the improv, because they have to, it's really up to them to sort through it all and find the story and piece it together right. Yeah.
I'm glad they kept in the ornament, because I think that might have been my favorite part, was Perry just, here's your present.
Yeah, I didn't know what they were going to keep in. I was actually, and I was telling another interview just like an hour ago, it's like, when I did watch it, I really do forget everything I say. When you're improvising, you just have to like turn off the filter and just let it all come out, because that's the way you're going to find the funny stuff, so you can't be thinking, you're going to be too slow. So there's no thinking involved. You just go. And so I watch it and go, I said that? Oh, that's funny. Oh, I did that.
I think that improv.
I didn't remember going down in my pants for the nuts. I didn't remember that at all. When I was doing, what am I doing? I actually fell for it. I go, what am I? And then they pull out the nuts, and I was like, yeah, low blood sugar. And I was like, oh, that's funny.
Brilliant.
Well, having done improv in the past, like on and off over the years, that's one of the things I think why as I was watching your performance, I knew immediately, like, oh, this is definitely a lot of improvisation, because you're just going full bore with it and just going and going and going. And you're correct though, like with improvisation is that, but you have to turn off that filter and just let it go and base every joke you could possibly do on your instincts. And it really does shine through the film, because pretty much I would say everything that Perry says throughout this segment got a laugh out of me.
Yes.
Yeah. There was one joke I did, which I did remember, and I kind of knew they were going to cut it out, and because they were like, don't. There was a patch of wall in the living room by the thing, and it had like painting, like the owner of the house now currently was like doing swatches or something, and they did a little patch of wall, and I was like looking around. I go, what happened here? What happened here? And they're like, that was there. I go, was it? was it? Or did you patch this up? Did you have a fight with her? Did you lose your temper? Did you punch the wall? Did you patch it up before I came over? And I was in his face. I go, touch Devin. Did you touch her? So I think that veered off too much. Did you guys see it in the theater in Perth this Sunday? The premiere?
Oh no, like we were sent a screener for it to watch,
okay.
but I would have loved to have seen it with a crowd because it was a riot.
We watched it together and we had a great time.
It premiered this Sunday in Australia. I did like a Zoom at like 4:30 a.m. Where are you guys?
We're in Melbourne.
Right. So what time is it there though?
It's only about nearly 9:30 now.
PM.
In the morning. Yeah, AM.
Oh, in the morning. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think they were, we did Zoom Q&A, and so that was probably at 9:30 at night, or something like that. But Perth is on the other, that's
right?
Yeah.
So I was up at 4:30. That's all I remember. Me and Vernon. Good morning. And they were asking us questions, a crowd, and I was like, I have no idea. I can't even think. It's like, at least I can get away with it being Perry. But it was at the Lunar Leaderville in Perth or something like that. Yeah.
I think I do. I have been to Perth, and I think I do remember that theater. I haven't gone to it personally, but I think I know of the name of it. So, but being that said, like I said, like Marcey and I were just, when we were watching it, we were just laughing our asses off watching it. But at the same time, as it's also can be legit scary at times too, because I remember at one point I was watching it on my laptop because that's how cinema is meant to be seen these days. Right. And at one point, a jump scare happened, I legit, my laptop, I got scared that much, my laptop almost fell off my lap and almost onto the ground and crashed. So, and that's the thing that I think what's great about the film is like it does find that good balance of being very funny, but also can be scary at times as well. And with your segment, there are some legit creepy moments in it as well.
Yeah, creepy, and I wanted, like, no matter what I did in a comedy way. I thought as we were doing the thing, I go, it's Christmas, it's a Christmas film, so I wanted to bring in the sort of like his story of like, who is this guy, but have it tied directly to Christmas. You know what I mean? Like when he's looking at the Santa thing, telling his story, but it's also sort of like, oh, poor Perry, like kind of sad. You know what I mean? Like at this poor lonely guy, but also, okay, I get it. Get the heck out of my house. You know what I'm saying? So I think it really has a lot of little peaks and valleys to it. For something we were just like, let's go. So, and I would say my character would not work without Ian and Devin playing it the way they played it. And they sort of like really straight, like, who is this? Like that's how comedy works. You have to, you can't everything can't be elevated. If you have one sort of a little more outrageous than the other one's toned down, and then you have the oil and water sort of comedy of it all.
Yeah, I think it hit the right balance, and it's just, it's so delightful. It really was.
Yeah. I'm glad. Thank you so much.
I also, I got to ask this because again, this is you're improvising a lot in this segment. How many times did you break your co-stars? Because that's when you're on a roll if you're able to make them break character. Yeah.
I think the female, the girl broke a couple times, Devin. The real break, though, for the whole crew was when I grabbed that Santa Claus thing and started telling the story. They had no idea. They didn't know what I was going to do. And I actually didn't. The thing I discovered about it was, because that comes at that point where we're watching the playback from the night before. And I'm like, oh, did you put this music in? Where's this music coming from? I'm like, no, it's coming from that ornament on the hearth, the fireplace mantle. And I thought, because that was all pre-prepared that we were watching, so I actually thought he did put the music in, even though it was supposed to be coming from there. I thought, okay, they put the music in. I didn't know it actually played music. And it was like a spinny thing. It was a Santa Claus that you wind at the bottom and then it spins around while it plays the thing. Well, after the spin is wearing down, the gravity is going to stop it But when I picked it up, it still had a little bit of music left, and I didn't know that. It actually shocked me the first time I picked it up and started playing. And it was, but it's just at the end of like a ding bong dong down. And so I realized it was the bottom. So as I start telling the story, I just was slowly turning it again to keep that kind of bing bang bong bong ding bang, like all creepy music going as I'm telling the Perry's backstory of Christmas. And that one had people had to leave the room, and Rob was the camera guy, and he was trying to hold it together because as he's laughing, it's shaking, So I think they did, we lost a little. I had to take it over again, which sucked because it's like sometimes when you're trying to match, like, oh, what did I just say? Or because the first time you say something, you're really into I'm treating this real. I'm whatever he's saying, I'm visualizing in that world, So.
Well, I think it's pretty easy to say. I think you need to ask the directors, Rob and Randy, to make a spin-off movie with Paranormal Perry right now. The audience demands it. I demand it. Marcey demands it.
Yes, I do.
Because I got, like you say, like I know you guys have been talking about it, but I'd love to see the continuing adventures of Paranormal Perry, because I think there's a lot of potential there for that character, whether it be another segment for a sequel or even his own film.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know where, I'll leave that up to them to, tell me when and where, but I would love to do it. That's for sure. Because I did watch it and it was enjoyable. And I do think that, this is a really small film. It may take a few years for it to proliferate into sort of, but it will. I think it will. I think with Vernon and myself and Jeff, I think there'll be some eyeballs on it, especially since it's a Christmas and it's getting good word of mouth. So the word of mouth does build something, you know what I mean? So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Before we finish up our interview with you, Dave, one of the things we like to do when we interview guests is go through their filmography, find the most obscure project that is on there, and talk to you about it. So this one's a little bit different. This is not
you got a hard task because you went through mine. You're like, I've never heard of any of these.
Well, the thing is, though,
and then right off the cliff.
Well, the thing is, though, I was going through it, and then I discovered this is what I wanted to talk to you about. Wasn't a film, but a music video. Can you tell us about the time you worked on "By the Way" by the Red Hot Chili Peppers? Because I remember your character very well in that music video.
Yeah. And we actually did, just like we're going to do a sequel to Paranormal Perry. It's, if you watch Universally Speaking, it's the follow-up to that video, the same character where I'm trying to return the book. I had a great time on that. That is sort of a reprisal of the character I did in Ghost World, Doug. And they saw that and they basically reached out to me saying, hey, we want you to play that character as this cab driver that kidnaps Anthony. He's a big fan, et cetera, et cetera. And so it was a lot of fun. I got to do 90% of those driving stunts were me. I think the only thing I didn't do was the part that crashes through the sidewalk and stuff like that. But even like the spin outs and some of those coming down the alleys and stuff like that, they let me do it. It was a lot of fun. And and I improvised that dance with the flares, and it was Dayton and Ferris were the directors. They went on to direct like Little Miss Sunshine and a couple other films. And she was like a dance major at UCLA. She was, about my age probably. And she was like, wow, like, how long have you been dancing? Like, where'd you study dance? After I did the thing with the flares, and I was like, I don't know. I just made that up. Like, I don't know any dancing experience. And she was like, wow, you're really good. I mean, I'm a dance major. I was like, okay, cool. So.
And also your wig is very memorable in that film. I mean, that music video as well. But was it real, or was that like
no?
Real?
That was a wig because they contacted me. We're like, hey, we're shooting like in a week, and they were wigs both in Universally Speaking. And that in Ghost World it was my real hair, but in that one was like too short a notice. We went and I think I had a couple wigs lying around, and I just cut a couple and said which one looks the best. Yeah. So,
Well, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting to us, Dave. This was a real pleasure, and we recommend all of our listeners and watchers right now to check out the Christmas tapes. It is a lot of fun. It does provide the laughs, it does provide the scares. And I honestly, I have to agree with you. I think this is definitely one that's gonna catch on.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I hope so. I hope so. You know?
I hope so too. It was I can be a little bit skeptical with found footage, but even knowing it was improvised, it just felt so just natural with why people are filming everything. Though I wasn't questioning why it was happening, and that really
That's a
brought
good
me
point.
into it. Yeah,
I know that is a really good point. Like we're definitely at the point now where people film so much that like that's a great entry point to meaning like the not the believability, but just like the sort of like acceptance as a viewer going, okay, yeah, I'm in this. Like I'll watch this
Yeah.
because I know a lot of jackasses that want to film, they're moving in and all this other stuff, and it goes bad. So yeah.
I mean, to be fair, if paranormal Perry came to my house, I'd be filming the whole thing too.
The one thing I couldn't do because it was a rental, it was someone's house, was that master bedroom door. I wanted to really just like break it because like, oh no, you push it, not pull it. You know what I mean? But obviously I couldn't do that hard. But I do. The entry is funny with that where he's that metal door they have, and he looks way more like serious, and then as soon as he comes in, it's just complete buffoon. So it's fun.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, is there any other films that you have or TV shows coming up in the future you would like to talk to us about?
Thank you for asking. Thank you. Currently, well, the one I'd love to really promote right now is another holiday film, which happens 2 weeks later or a week later. It's called New Fear's Eve, and it's a slasher movie on New Year's Eve. And we're currently on Indiegogo right now, so it's Indiegogo New Fear's Eve, where we're raising the funds to shoot that. At the end of January, we'll be shooting it in Owensboro, Kentucky. The one thing that I love about those Indiegogos, because I personally am on there, and I always like, if I see a good enough project, I like to pre-order the DVD, the Blu-ray, they say, because that's really that's a good litmus test of, are people interested in it, is, you know, how many Blu-rays are being pre-ordered, because people are saying, I want to see it. But at the same time, these are always first edition, limited edition Blu-rays, which have completely different artwork. The cut is usually going to be longer or different than the ones that are released by the distributor, Lionsgate or whatever. And then on this particular case, and a lot of the cases, the actors like myself and some of the other actors, we autograph these Blu-ray sleeves. So you get a pre-order of a limited edition, one of a kind, first edition Blu-ray that they're only going to make like 100 or 500. And then they're already autographed, for like $40. It's a pretty good deal. And it's more of a collector's item because for people that are still owning like physical media and stuff like that, these are like the Blu-ray you wouldn't be able to get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely as physical media collectors.
He ran away. He ran away. He got scared. I was petting him for a long time.
Oh,
he was like, I don't want to be on TV, Daddy.
Yeah. This one does.
Oh, hello. No.
There they are. They want in.
I want it. See, when we joined the Zoom call, I was not expecting doggos to appear on the Zoom call.
Always a bonus to see the doggies.
Well, thank you so much again, Dave, for joining us and to talk about the Christmas tapes. The film will be out very soon, so definitely. I believe it's coming out this week, at least at the time of this recording. So definitely
the 16th or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of our listeners definitely check it out. Once it is released, and once again, thank you so much for joining us and talking about it.
Oh, thank you guys. I had a pleasure, and have me on again. You know what I mean?
Like, definitely.
Next project.
We would love to, for sure.
We would love to.
All right.
Well, all right.
Hey, also, I don't know if we're still recording, but this doesn't have to.
Oh yeah, we.
Do you guys know of like a good like Comic-Con or like a horror convention in Australia?
Oh, do we ever?
We've been trying to get horror conventions started down here, but not happening yet, but there are oh my god, Bede, I'm
Well,
brain dead right now.
There's quite a number here in Australia. There's Oz Comic Con, which is one, and also Supernova. So if you're definitely interested
Heard of
in
that
coming
one.
down, yeah. So if you're definitely interested in coming down for a convention here in Australia, I would say those are the two big main ones to go for.
Oz Comic Con and Supernova.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. I'll check those out. Yeah, no, I'm definitely, it's a country that I haven't been to at all. And one of the sort of like new like perks is doing these Comic Cons is
Yes.
to go get to travel. You know what I mean?
Oh,
yes.
See people, but it's a reward both ways because now I get to go there and there's a lot of people probably there that would be like, oh my God, I want to meet him. So,
I mean,
Oh,
we'll
definitely.
be first in line if you do get here.
yes, I like to go. I dress up as Doofy at them because
I mean, I was going to say I'll dress up as Doofy to meet you.
yeah. When people do come to the line when they're cosplaying as Doofy, I usually step away, go, okay, you're late. And I put them there. I go, I'll be back in an hour. Good job. Keep working. I make them do the sign.
Actually, yeah. But before we actually really let you go, Dave, and yes, this is still recording, but I have to say, now that we are talking of Doofy, I have to tell you my favorite line of yours is Doofy. Because and I sent the gift of this to Marcey the other day. It's like and I have to quote this line all the time because it's after when we basically like when Cindy is on the phone with the Ghostface Killer and Buffy calls out to Doofy, and then you come out on the phone and you have the vacuum cleaner and you're like, Mom, don't disturb me while I'm trying to clean my room.
It's a good one, yeah. But no, yeah. I sign that a lot. It's like, I'm like, no. She said, don't disturb me while I'm cleaning my room.
That's going to live rent free in my head now. Thank you.
It is, and it's out of all the lines in the movie, because every line you do in that film is killer, but that's definitely the one I think is that this always gets a laugh out of me the most.
I mean, I can smell my finger.
The funny thing is it's like, don't disturb me while I'm cleaning my room, whatever. It's like 5 or 6 words or whatever.
Yes.
But
yes,
I wish there was just, like I go poopy is like less to sign. You know what I mean? I go poopy, but everyone comes up, hey, can you put don't disturb me while I'm cleaning my room? I go, yeah, okay. And that's because that is one of the most, the most popular quote that they're always asking me to do. And then they always go, yeah, I'm always saying that every time I turn the vacuum on, I yell to my wife, or my boss is always saying that. So it's like,
well, if you ever do come down for a convention and we do meet you, I will make sure to get you to sign one of your other lines for the autograph instead.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe get him to sign a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
I might do that actually.
Yeah, I get that a lot, especially in UK. In the UK, there's these Stanley vacuum cleaners, but they make little versions of them. And there was a line of people. I go, who the hell is Stanley? But then I find out that it's like there's a Stanley, and then there's another something like Henry. There's a Stanley, a Henry. So I was like, maybe I should contact that company so that Stanley Henry Doofy. You know what I mean? And just a Doofy version of
get the Doofy line of vacuums out.
From that company, because all they have to do is silk screen I don't know how they print it. It's just a name and it's these goofy eyes, so
yes, right. I love it. But we'll let you go. Well, thanks once again for joining us for the interview. You have a great day, and also have a great Christmas as well.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Guys. Thank you. Right. And thank you for enjoying the film.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You got it. Later, guys. Bye.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye. Yep, that's our interview of Dave Sheridan. Great interview. And I think you and I were still kind of being a bit giddy that we talked to Officer Doofy after that.
It was a lot of fun. Dave, thank you so much for allowing us to have a chat with you and have a bit of fun. And I'm glad that our fandom of Doofy was well embraced.
Exactly. And luckily, I may have embarrassed myself just a little bit towards the end, but it was worth it. So
it's always worth it, Bede.
Exactly. But now we're going on to our next interview. And this one's the big one. This is the big interview for this show. is that we, of course, got to talk to legendary Australian actor Vernon Wells. And the reason why it was a big interview, because I think originally it was going to be kind of a short one, kind of like how Dave's was, but it ended up being a lot longer than expected because we covered a lot of stuff with Vernon Wells in that interview. Not just the film, but other aspects of his career and some of his other films and other projects he has coming up, but also talking a little about exploitation, especially since we also host another podcast called the Ozploitcast.
Yeah.
So,
it was a big fangirl moment, I gotta say.
indeed. And so with that out of the way, let's get to it. Here is our interview with the one and only Vernon Wells. Indeed, because Marcey, we have a very special guest we're talking to today.
Yes.
He is an Aussie legend who is the star of many classic films such as Mad Max 2, Commando, Inner Space, and as well as a major a major villain on the TV show Power Rangers. And he is here today to join us to talk about his new film, The Christmas Tapes, and that, of course, is Vernon Wells. Hello, Vernon. How are you?
Great. How are you guys?
Pretty good, thanks. Pretty good. Just enjoying the very bizarre weather we're having in Victoria right now.
Yeah.
Which part of Victoria?
Melbourne.
That's where I'm. Yeah, that's my home state.
Indeed. Because
Yes.
as you probably would know, Vernon, like the weather changes at least a billion times today. Like a billion times in one day. So
One of the few places in the world where you can have summer, autumn, winter, and fall all in the same day.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, but you're here today to join us to talk about your latest film, The Christmas Tapes, which of course is a horror anthology which you co-star alongside Greg Sestero and Dave Sheridan. Now, I guess my first question for you in regards to this film, what drew you to being a part of The Christmas Tapes? Because not only are you one of the stars of the film, but you're also a producer on it as well.
What drew it was very simple. When they rang me up and they were talking to me about this whole thing, when Michael rang me up and said, "We're doing this film and it's an anthology thing, and we were thinking about you to play Santa Claus." And I went, Santa Claus? Yeah, but he's kind of and I went, "Oh, great. So now you're going to get me to destroy every child in the world's idea of Santa Claus. Wonderful. I'll do it."
I mean, what sticks out with at least your segment and your character is we get a bit of an Aussie Santa, which for us is always very exciting representation, even if Santa's a bit freaky.
A bit, yes. Yes. I think it's kind of funny. When I first started in this business, not ever wanting to be an actor, but when I first started in the business and came to America, they were always saying, well, you could get more work if you had an American accent. And I'd always say, I don't give a shit, I'm an Australian. And so it went, and then eventually, of course, I would do an American accent for certain things, but eventually people said, "Why are you bothering? Your voice is perfect the way it is. Just leave it alone. God, we'll have you." And nobody has, for the last years, no one's ever mentioned it. Everybody just wants me to be me, because over the time that I've been working and doing stuff, my voice has matured into something it wasn't. And so now it's the way they love it. So, yep, I'm a Santa Aussie.
Yes.
But we won't spoil too much what happens in your segment, because one of the things I really most enjoyed about the Christmas Tapes, with a lot of not just your segment, but for the other ones as well, is they start off being one thing and then they completely go in a different direction as as they go along. And particularly yours, because when yours started off, I was thinking, okay, I have an idea where this is going, but as it progresses, it goes in completely different directions. Is that one of the reasons that kind of drew you to being a part of that segment?
Yeah. The thing was, I don't know whether you know that the boys, when they write an outline the show, and to on the segment they wrote an outline, and then we talked about the character and got all that down, and then they said, go with it. So it's you as an actor playing the character as you see it, with the dialogue that it's in your mind that you're having fun with. So it's a little bit scary, but a hell of a lot of fun, because you can actually take the character in ways that you wouldn't do if it was a scripted piece, because it would be that way. But with this, you can move, because like in life, if you're talking to the other person that you're with and he says something and you go, you're over here now, and you're doing it over here. And so something happens over there, and now you're back over here. And I love that, because you're making the whole thing more real. And apart from that, making people watching it go, what the hell are they going to do now? What is Santa going to do? And I always say, I have, this year, I expect to get at least 1,000 phone calls from very happy parents saying, cost us $5 for Christmas presents. No one wants bloody Santa. So, I think I've changed a whole lot of kids' idea of Santa.
I mean, you've changed my idea of Santa. I mean, we've seen sort of like evil Santas and stuff, but this just felt very different and unique, which I really liked about the segment, because as Bede said, it just goes in this weird direction we don't expect it, and I was a little freaked out.
Yeah, he's fun, and I think that's the whole point of this whole that we did, was that the characters had to be fun in regard to, once you start trying to make everything this movie, it becomes boring. It's more fun if you get out there and you start doing things that people are not expecting, and they're like, oh, did you see that? Damn. And that, to me, is what movies are all about. It's that whole thing of, don't go in there, he's in that room. Oh God, don't go through the door, And of course the idiots go through the door, and the bad guy's in there and he chops them up. But the thing is that people are so invested in the thing that they're screaming at a movie they're expecting the kids or whoever it is to turn around and go, thank you, I'm happy, and walk away, to not go in the room. And actually, that was it. If you have ever seen it, there's a movie that did that when they were going to go in the room, they already knew that people in the audience were going to go, no, don't go in the room. So they had the kids all stop and turn around. Should go in the room. They don't think we should, and they walked off to do it.
Well, I'm kind of curious, like, with being in a found footage film. Like, I know with a lot of found footage, the key things that make one work is the naturalism. So it does feel believable, like you are watching people through a viewfinder. So I'm sort of curious, like, how much was your segment scripted and how much was improvised? Because I'm assuming it's either one or the other, or maybe a mixture of both.
It was scripted in the fact that they wrote out what the scene was about, and we did. Basically, there were little bits where we would do things and the director would say, it's not going to work, we need to do something else with it, and we would backtrack and come around at it from a different angle. But mostly it was up to us. We were just doing dialogue, that whatever. I mean, and the thing is, what people don't understand is once it starts to run, is a normal conversation like we're having. My conversation at the moment is not scripted. I'm just talking to you about questions that you're asking me. And I was answering the questions that the other character was giving me. And I was giving him questions for him to answer. So you get this thing where it's just like 2 or 3 real people doing a real situation. So the dialogue becomes very real. And I, more than anything, that's what's unnerving to people, is it does become very real. You're looking at.
Yeah, I think that's what really impressed me, was that as everything kind of flowed throughout the film, it actually had a really good flow. Things felt very natural. You weren't questioning why you're filming this. It really just flowed well, and there are a few moments that we jumped watching it.
I jumped so much that like I was watching it on my laptop, and a moment made me jump at so much that my laptop almost fell off my lap and onto the floor.
You know, to me, that's what it's all about. That's why I love doing movies, is enjoying what I do, and being able to give people something that they want to enjoy, which is very difficult these days because we have the $200 million blockbuster, 90% of it done on the computer, which I hate, by the way. I love George Miller. You know, he did Fury Road, and 92% of it was shot on camera. 8% of it was done done with computers. That's, to me, is what it's all about, because the feel you get with people and reality is so much different to what you can do on a computer with taking those characters doing that thing. Sure, when something's going to happen, which is definitely someone could get very badly injured, yeah, that's a whole different thing, that you can do that. But that's usually for a stunt, so there's so much happening that you don't worry about it. But in actuality of the film itself, I prefer it just to be the people doing it. You know, that's nothing like listening to the actors and what they're doing, the look on their face. It's funny because I was at a screening of a film of mine on Monday night, and a comment from someone to me was, "It's fascinating to watch you work because everything's in your eyes. If you watch your eyes, you can see exactly the thoughts that go through your mind before you open your mouth." And that's the truth. I always think about what I'm saying. I don't just say it. I know what I'm going to say. So I have to listen to what they're saying to me, because when I'm learning a script, I never learn the other character's parts. I always learn mine. So I really don't know what the other character in a given moment, because I feel that if I don't and they do something, then I react to it as I would as whereas if I know what they're going to do, I'm waiting for it.
Yeah.
So there's no real reaction. You just sort of, oh, well, I'll turn now because I've got and I prefer that, because the spontaneity that we get into the situation drives what the character is and drives what the audience sees. And the point is, you've got to have the audience on your side, or you've just lost the whole thing. Perfect example is Wes in Mad Max 2. They got involved with who he was. They didn't get turned off by who he was. They got involved with who he was. And so they wanted to see where it was going to go. And I think a lot of people were disappointed that I actually ended up dead. I say I didn't. You never saw my body, so damn you all, I could come back.
Fingers crossed in a future installment.
It could happen. It's funny because I just saw another screening of a film I did, and it's right at the end. I play a fallen priest who helps one of my ex-students do an exorcism, which I'm not supposed to do because I'm not a priest, but I do it because she's in a lot of problems. And right at the end, when everything's over, I win the day, and we all do our thing. The movie's ending, and you're like, that was cool. And I'm standing on a street corner, and I'm eating chips. I've just come out of a 7-Eleven. I got a bag of chips. I'm eating chips, and I'm down the road. And I think I'm look down the road that way. Put a chip in my mouth and step forward, and the bus goes straight through the frame instantly. And you go, why? Everybody wanted me to live. It's so funny. All the audience said, "Why did you kill him?" And I went, "Well, you don't see me, so maybe I step back."
Maybe he just always lives.
But since like as you stated before, like you prefer to have like just your scenes when working on film, so you have a bit of spontaneity with the other characters in the film. Like, how did it feel like? Because I'm assuming you only got like the outline and that just for your segment. So, what was it like, kind of seeing all the other segments in the whole film later on?
I haven't seen it.
Ooh.
I see it on the 14th.
Oh, well, I think you'll quite enjoy it.
Before it's released, and two of the other in it are very close friends of mine. But no, I haven't seen it. They're doing a big screening up in Sacramento, of which I was invited to, and David was invited to, and we're going up there, and we're going to run roughshod over the locals, so to speak. No, and I'm the worst critic of myself when I'm filming, when I see my films, because I have a habit of just sitting there going, "Oh dear God, why did I do that?" And it's always my own attitude of what I see, because I never ever think I do it as good as it could be done. And I think when I do finally see a movie and I go, "Perfect," I might as well quit.
Has there ever been now being curious right now, has there ever been a film of yours that has reached that perfection mode?
Nope.
Oh,
not
very
with me.
curious. Yeah.
Watch it, yes, they love it, but I see blemishes in everything I do, because I can look at it and go, damn it, why did I do that? That was a real bad. And to me, it's a learning thing. Even now, many years I've been in this business, to me, it's still a learning curve. That if I look at something I've done and I can find something in it that I don't like, I know not to do that again, and I won't. So it's a learning curve that I go through things, and sometimes it's big, and a lot of it's not just me. A lot of it's the director. You look at it and go, I knew that scene wasn't going to work because of that camera angle. But once again, I would never say anything on the set, because that's not my job. Be an actor. I'm there to mumble at the camera and do my job, not to tell the director how to do his. So yeah, but I will say that I have been in quite a few films that I would consider to be magnificently perfect in every way, just absolutely wonderful, because I don't feel that doesn't, to me, detract from the film. I did a film called Frost, if you ever get a chance, and I give you a copy of it, watch it. But do yourself a favor, don't eat before you watch
it. I'll make sure to do that.
It's a brilliant film. There's two people in it, me and Deveni Pin in a car. And just a brilliant, brilliant film. And I think it's as close as you can get to having a film that is just perfect.
Well, we'll have to watch it.
It is. It's beautiful. Except for the last 20 minutes. A little bit, yeah. But then again, I'm my worst critic. And I think while I am my worst critic, I'll continue to do what I do, because I'm never happy with what I do. Therefore, I'm always trying to make it better. And while I'm trying to do that, of course, the benefit of that is the people watching it, because they're getting me doing more than what I would do if I thought greatest things in sliced bread, which I don't. However, I think I'm pretty good as toast.
I think we can all relate to kind of being our own worst critic and using that to kind of better what we do, especially when you're in that creative space. Because I think we're all sort of like, why did I do that when I could have done this better? And you kind of remember it for next time. And yeah, I think it's very relatable.
Well, every situation comes up again.
Mm.
It's not like you go, oh God, why did I do that? Because it's going to come up sooner or later in something in that same situation with that same choice to make. It may not be a scene that's exactly the same as the one you did, but you have that choice to make, and now you know, I ain't going there, baby. And you'll do it right, and it will make everything look so much better. And I enjoy that. I think that doing this Santa Claus taught me one hell of a lot in the fact that I actually can do comedy and what I like to do, because I love comedy, and I can do it well. And you know, I was doing another interview, and they said, "Dude, you've got to follow up on the comedy. You really have the timing and everything down pat." And it's like no one wants to give it to me.
They should.
You know, like the other guy that kicks people and kicks little old ladies.
I mean, Santa felt very, what's the right words I'm looking for? It felt natural, but there was something like in the back of your mind that's like, there's something really unsettling about him. And as that segment continues, it's like, oh, and just the way it's like presented with what happens, there was definitely a moment I was like, I don't think I want to meet this Santa if he's going to do that.
Well, that's the point of it, isn't it? Is to make people. To me, the great line in that is that I am the piper.
Mm.
Must be paid. I love that.
Very good.
I also love a line you say earlier in the piece where the other actor you work with in the scene, once you arrive at, and this is a minor spoiler for all of our watchers and listeners, is that when you go up to the building meeting the guy, and he hears your accent. Is that, oh, you're from Australia? Where part of Australia you're from? And you just say, my mother. And I just love that line because you deliver it so hilariously deadpan, but also at the same time, there's a tinge of unsettledness to it as well.
It's that obvious thing because people keep saying to me, that accent, Australian, right? I go, uh-huh. I go, where are you from? My mother. Oh, ha. What? You know, like, it's because it's the same question all the time. Nobody has enough sense to phrase it in some other way, so you'll answer it, you know. I've had a couple of people say to me, oh, Australian. So your mother was where? Smart ass. I was actually born in the country. I was born in a little town called Rushworth up on the Hume Highway.
Oh.
Sydney.
Well, I'm sort of a country boy as well, but from New South Wales. So before I moved down here 10 years ago to Melbourne.
Who cares? Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, I've always been an Australian. I always will be, you know, I that's where I was born. That's who I am. Why the hell would I want to change and pretend I'm somebody else? I'm who I am. And
I feel that.
Fact of being an Australian, because people just go, I love your voice. Where's it from? Again, my mother.
My mother. I'm definitely going to use that line now.
I just got sick of people asking me where I was from, and I thought, oh, for God's sake, I'm from my mother. My father had something to do with it, but we're not sure what.
That's why I kind of love when the film Commando, like you kept your accent for that. And I think when the first time I saw that film, it was like, oh, there's an Aussie in this film and they're keeping their accent. So you kind of do feel that kind of a little bit of like proudness as an Aussie to kind of see like, oh, there's this big major villain in an action film and he's an Australian character.
Yeah, the thing is, though, how I always looked at it was there's more than American accents in the world.
Exactly.
American accents in America, for God's sake. And why? Yeah, I always hark back to one thing. A wonderful, wonderful English actor called Sean Connery, who played a Russian in a submarine with a Scottish accent. And somebody asked him and said, did it ever bother you, Mr. Connery, that you were using a Scottish accent for a Russian submarine commander? And he said, well, sir, if they were listening to my accent, we were doing a bloody bad movie, weren't we? That's basically the truth, is if people are listening to my accent, I'm not acting very well. I don't think it really, sometimes it adds to the character, don't get me wrong, because I think being Australian, I can get away with a hell of a lot more in the characters like American. Because they'll accept it from me where they won't accept it from an American.
Yeah.
I can do horrid things and people are like, oh, that was so really cool. So yeah, but I'm proud of being an Australian. Always have been.
Me too.
Well, speaking of Australian films, I know Marcey and I were sort of wondering whether to bring this up on the show because we were looking over your IMDb page, your filmography, and one of the things we like to do when we talk to a guest is sort of the most obscure film in your filmography and talk about it. It's something that we have both seen. Can you tell us about the time when you worked on the film Shrimp on the Barbie?
Yeah, sure. Not in New Zealand, and it was actually fun. I would have preferred it if a certain somebody else had have directed it and he played the other. But Cheech was just wonderful. Cheech and I knew each other, so we had a lot of fun doing it. But it was a hard one to go through, and it could have been so much better.
There was definitely potential with it. There are actually genuinely weird, funny moments, and a great cast. And I think we just kind of fell in love with the character you played because it was so, I don't know, over the top or something, and it was just it made things more delightful.
It was just such fun. Yeah, I still say the best line in that for me was when I was holding the beer. Get it out of her pants and into your mouth. No grin, nothing, just. But and the funniest scene was, which nobody ever saw, was the scene in the fish tank. When you get into a fish tank with 1,200 fish, they have a tendency to nibble at all kinds of parts. And that was the funniest part, was in that scene of that, just being in that fish tank going, this is kind of interesting. But yeah, it was I loved it because I was actually working with Cheech, and I love Cheech. Adore him. He's such an amazing character and wonderful director. As I said, if he'd have been directing, it would have been a whole different movie. And
also your comic timing in that film was great too. Like you really found the perfect kind of like pitch for that character because you like really commit to playing that character. And I think that's what makes your character Bruce stand out the most among the other characters.
Yeah, I was Bruce. All I think about me in my old days playing football and what I was like. You know, like the Aussie footballer, you know, hey, yeah, man, give me a beer, you know. I was just one of those big Aussie larrikins, and I played professional football there for quite a few years. Actually, I played it up until 6 months before I did Road Warrior. And that's all. I just hark back to that. What did we do when we were? Oh, yeah, that's what we did. So it was really easy the character of Bruce. Yes, here we go. Reliving my very bad youth. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. You know, it was just to me, it was another film that I enjoyed doing that could have been better than it was. And that always hurts, not regard of what I've done, but because everybody in that film put their best foot forward, but we were let down. And I get a little upset about that, but
yeah,
do your best and then you get screwed, as they say. But yeah, that was one of my fun. I thought you were going to bring up Australia After Dark.
Oh, well,
we have seen that and discussed that film. We've been going from the very start of Ozploitation cinema, and we've watched everything from the 70s. And as you brought up before, like George Miller and that filmmaking without, using CG for everything, like watching Ozploitation and how all of these films were just shot, people did crazy things. It's an incredible appreciation for, filmmaking in almost like a guerrilla style for some things.
Yeah, you could never do it now.
No.
Ever. Not possible. But the thing is, we did it and got away with it. And it turned out great. I mean, Road Warrior is still one of those films that people continue to hark back to, directing, the editing, the acting, the characters. Here in Los Angeles at the university, it's used as a teaching aid. There are parts of Road Warrior that are considered to be brilliant. And one of them is George's editing of scenes, able to cut scenes so precisely to get certain things to happen. And so this is a film that's 50 years old now? And
yep, probably close to that, yeah.
People are still talking about it. And I was talking to someone the other day and I said, you know what, to me, it makes more sense today in the society we live in worldwide than when we made it. Because if you look, we are doing Mad Max, way. And I always say to George, what were you on, dude? Because I want to know. I'd like to try it.
I was going to say, like, not just George Miller, but other filmmakers at that time, like, Brian Trenchard Smith, like when they made their action films. Like I was watching for our Ozploitation podcast, Man from Hong Kong, and there was a lot of insane stunt work in that film. And of course, a lot of it, is done by Grant Page, who's an absolute maniac, and I love him for that. And like, yeah, I mean, it just blows my mind, like seeing how action films of the 70s during the Ozploitation film movement and also into the 80s, just how going all out to make it look as real, but also incredibly insane and also breathtaking.
Yeah, and I mean, people got hurt, which is nobody was ever. I mean, occasionally not by anybody's stupidity, but it's like everything. Even when the best planned things, they can go awry, and it's not anybody's fault. It just you have to accept it. I was doing a film in China. I was actually in Singapore. I'm sorry, in Hong Kong Harbor. And we were on a speedboat going up and down Hong Kong Harbor and around. And there's a part of Hong Kong Harbor is where they have these floating fish farms. And they're like an island. They're set up in a U shape. And the boats go down the middle to get loaded with the fresh fish and whatever they've got there or whatever. And we were doing a scene where I was racing, my speedboat's racing, and quite a number of knots, and I'm shooting at the guys behind me and all this crap, and we do a sliding turn around in, one of those into this thing and go straight down this. As we went down, the other boat came across and lost control and hit the side of the actual fish farm thing and just took off Yeah, and as we were going, I looked up, and all I saw was this boat coming. So I was like that because it was going to hit me square.
Oh,
It did. It hit me poof, into the middle of my chest.
oh.
Ouch.
I was fortunate that the seat I was
Mm.
had a 6-inch foam back, so that when it hit me, all it did was drive me back into this seat,
Oh.
and the boat itself hit the sides of the seat. So a lot of the compression of what would have probably killed me was taken,
Mm.
and it bounced back, of course. And all I did was go trying to breathe, and then finally I got my breath back, and I had this amazing bruise down the middle of my chest.
Wow.
That's terrible.
Been so much, but it wasn't anybody's fault.
No, that's right.
The
Oh, scary.
fact that it happened, I didn't run around blaming anybody for
Mm.
Mm.
it. And it made me understand that no matter how planned out things are and
Mm.
it's still scary doing it.
Mm.
We all, that's what we do in this business. We're doing,
Mm.
most of the films I do have a lot of stunt work, a lot of things in them that are very dangerous to do. And I still am a dumb shit that walks out there and goes, so what are you are going to sit in that chair and watch? And I go, no, I'm going to go out here and do this. No, you're not.
Well, I definitely like, because looking at your filmography and everything you have coming up, because you have quite a lot of films coming up over the next few years. Like, I definitely recommend all of our watchers and listeners to check out the Christmas tapes when it does get released, for sure, because it is a lot of fun. But are there any other films of yours that are coming out very soon that that everyone should check out, that you feel that we should?
Yeah, there's just to make me different. There's a film I did called Sally Floss, which is a series of kids' books, and
Oh,
I played the grandfather to the heroine. It's called Sally Floss in the Case of the Missing Earrings, and it's just this wonderful, wonderful kids movie, in which I play the grandfather to the young lady who was the lead, and I had the greatest time in the world doing it. And there's, as I said, Frost, which I just think is
Mm.
a wonderful movie, and Devaney is mind blowing in the lead. She blew me away was that it's about her character is pregnant. She was 8 months pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And we're in the snow doing the thing, and I said to her, why? And she said, because the reality is simple. If I wear something that makes me look pregnant, I don't react to it like there's anything living in it that I need to be protective of. But if I have a baby, I will do things to protect that child, even though it's inside my stomach, little things that you just don't think about. And that's what makes a character live and makes a character real. And that was the point. And I love that about her, that she went to that degree to make everything interesting. But there's that one, which is a wonderful movie. Another one I just did is The Monster Within. I play a fallen priest who's trying to help his student do an exorcism. And God, I've got so many movies coming out.
Do you feel like you're working more like now than you had been in the past? Because there's so many movies that you're in. It's like awesome.
Everybody keeps putting me in stuff. I think also because 24 years ago, 24, 25 years ago, when I met my wife, who is a Japanese American, and she's Buddhist. And she made me realize something about myself, that I was always playing the tough Aussie, being an asshole. And she made me understand that that's not what life's about. Life's about appreciating who we are, what we've got, and who our friends are, and who's around us, and treating people with respect. Because if you expect respect, you've got to give it. And it changed my whole life. Before that, I really was a bloody Aussie, believe me. I would roar down Pacific Coast Highway in my Corvette and see if I could put it over the edge of a cliff. I was just a total lunatic. And I've had all these wonderful things happen in my life. Like in that episode, there was a young lady who was worked as a highway patrol officer, and she pulled me up 3 times doing stupid things in my Corvette. And she said, "This is it, dude. You get rid of the Corvette, or I swear to God, if I see you driving it again, I will take it off you. I will take your license. You will never drive again, and you'll probably spend time in jail." And she was deadly serious. She saved my life because I would have killed myself. And I got rid of the Corvette, by the way. But I've had these amazing little things happen along the way. Like a good friend of mine said, "I want you to play the good guy in my next movie," and which scared the hell out of me, and I refused to do it. And I refused up until he told me who my co-star was. And then I said, "I'll do it." And my co-star was a 9-month-old chimpanzee. And so just the sheer thing, a monkey. That monkey taught me more about myself than I've ever known. Was just this little animal, was so relaxed, and all he would do was stare at me and watch what I did. Then he would repeat what I'd done when the camera was rolling. He was so smart. He wouldn't do it while the camera wasn't rolling, while we're rehearsing. It's like, yeah, who cares? I'll twiddle my thumb, pick my nose. I'm fine. Camera started rolling, he would repeat things that I'd done in the rehearsal, which was fascinating to me, that this little animal could do that. And he taught me that watch what goes on around you, because that's where your inspiration is. That's where the good things come from. And so I've been incredibly lucky, but for the last 25, 26 years, my life changed into this. I'm more relaxed. I asked a friend of mine who uses me a lot in films. I said to him one day, I said, "Come on, dude, why do you use me? You could use anybody." And he said, "Yeah, but I like you and you grew up."
Oh.
I grew up. I just wasn't the dumb shit that I had been. I became somebody it was a pleasure to have on the set to work with. And that made me realize how I had been destroying my own career without, and how once I stopped doing that, people started coming to the door and ringing my agent and manager and saying, "Hey, we got a film, we want Vernon to do it. We'll send him over the script if you don't mind." I haven't auditioned for a film for 15 years. They're all offered to me and I do them. And I get offered amazing scripts and some wonderful roles, and with some absolutely brilliant directors. I work with a young lady, Lana Reed, in Ohio over here. I've done 6 films with her. Every film she's got, she just rings up my manager and says, "We're doing another film. Is Vernon available on these days?" Because they just want me in the film. I never would have got to that point. It never would have happened. Be this dumbass Australian trying to prove how good I was and going nowhere quickly. So, as I said, I am so proud to be an Australian, but I also understood that sometimes you have to let go the Aussie to become the person.
Yeah.
Use that Aussie just a little bit much at times. And I was being the real Aussie, you know.
Yeah.
You give me a hard time, I kick your ass. Yeah, right. Why?
Yeah, I think almost there's like that stereotype, an expectation of, that really badass, crazy Aussie. And I think, yeah, we're kind of breaking those down now. And no, we're not all drunken, crazy. Some of us are.
The funny part is, though, of course, it worked so well for a lot of the films I played, being that Aussie. But then, of course, if you want to move on from that, you have to understand what's going on and who you are and why. And I still love playing villains, believe me, because to me, the villain has the best role in the film. I was told a long time ago, if you want to play a good villain, always treat the villain as the hero, because the villain
Yeah.
always regards himself as the hero. He's doing what he needs to do. He regards the hero as the villain because he's trying to stop him. And of course, it goes the other way around.
Mm.
I never thought of that. I'd always played the villain as a villain. And when he said that to me, I went, oh my God, that's so right. The villain always considers himself to be in the right. He never considers himself to be in the wrong. And that's why he fights so hard to protect what he's got and who he is. So that adds a different layer to him. And so you get all these little things that you learn along the way as you're going. And I've been incredibly lucky. I've been doing this business for years. And I've learned a hell of a lot while I've been doing it. And I've had some wonderful people take the time to show me and to talk to me, which is something I do a lot of now. I'm always working with youth and kids and trying to make them understand. I actually took, you'll love this, dumbass kids spent 25 grand each to fly from Australia to Los Angeles to have me yell at them. From Australia, they put on a master class here, and I was teachers.
Wow.
And everybody in the class was like you two. When I walked in, they went, wow. And the first thing I did was say, listen, guys and girls, if you've come here to have me teach you how to act, if you go through that door, you can get your money back, because I can't teach you how to act. And I'd just be lying if I said I could. So off you go. And everybody just sat there with, can't teach you how to act. All I can do is show you what your parameters are and how you can work within those parameters. That's it. And the rest of it's up to you. And I had this brilliant class. These kids, or two of them are big stars in Australia, by the way, now on TV. And they were both wonderful when we were doing the class. And I knew both of them were just going to go on. They had that thing. And but it was just fun for me to be able to give back to the next generation, basically. I mean, you know, we're all blessed with, to me, I'm blessed with what I've got. Good God. I can do things that other people wish to God they could. I seem to be able to take a character and without a lot of effort, and don't get me wrong, I put a lot of effort into what I do, but without a lot of effort, to set the character into where I know it's going, I know it will react to things and then play it. I always remember being with a director one day, and he said, you and I need to talk about the character. And I said, fine. And he said, mostly because they only had one night with me, because they could only get this location for one night. So I had to shoot 15 scenes in one night in 12 hours.
Jeez.
To talk to me about the character. And I said, you know what? How about I tell you what I think of the character, and then you tell me where I'm wrong, and that way we're going to save a hell of a lot of time and we can get this thing down. And he said, okay, go. So I just told him for 20 minutes what I thought of the character and how it was, and blah, blah, and blah, and blah. And I finished, and I said, okay. And he just looked at me and he went, F you. I went, sorry, did I do something wrong? And he said, in all my years directing, I've never stood in front of someone who's dissected a character to the degree you just did and not done one thing wrong. You had every beat. He said, how do you do that? And I went, no fucking idea. I just get the character, I look at it and I go, hey, he's this, he's that, he's the other thing. And I always think that it's just my ideas, not the writer's. And a different idea. But I tend to be right at what I think and how I think the character should react to things. And I'm not being an ass about this, but I think I'm blessed with that ability, which for some strange reason I got. And the funny thing is, I never wanted to be an actor.
And here you are.
songwriter, believe it or not. She wrote songs that Slim Dusty put on record, and there was a female, and I can never remember her name, Australian singer back in Slim Dusty's day, who did country and western like Slim did, and she wrote a couple of songs that she recorded. And I followed in my mother's footsteps. I worked in bands. I was a singer in rock bands. I grew up with all the guys that we now revere as rock stars from back in that era. You know, Johnny Farnham. I knew Johnny when he was just Jay. You know, Little River Band.
Mm.
Together. Carol, Pat Carroll, and Nibs. Again, we were all grew up in the same era, and we all went to clubs and things, and we get up on stage and do, you know, songs with the band because we knew them. And that was where I thought that I would always be. That was me, you know. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. Didn't work out that way. Some idiot decided I had to be an actor. Damn you, Miller. So my whole life went in a whole different direction, but still the same. Still the same. It's that thing. I get that kick out of it. It's, as I said to someone, drugs don't worry. I don't even think about, because the biggest drug in the world is called acting. There's an adrenaline rush every time you get a role in your set. You instantly high. When you finish the film, you're instantly in a slump because you always think, oh God, am I ever going to get cast in anything again? You know, is this the end? And it's like withdrawal symptoms. And then along comes the next one and you're up and running. So to me, that's the greatest high that you can have, is doing that, because it is something I love and I enjoy doing it. I have a lot of fun doing it, and people tend to like watching me do it. So what the hell? I'll just
keep going.
Exactly.
Now, I was told, and you may not know, and I probably shouldn't be telling you this. And so it's I thought it was wonderful that they allowed me to sort of say, can we shoot it in Australia? Because I'd love to go back and do a big movie back there.
Well, that should be really good.
Let's check it out and see what we can do.
Well, let's hope the weather holds up for when you come back here, because it's been terrible.
Sometime in like spring next year.
Yeah,
probably still be winter. I don't know anymore.
Well, a lot of studio.
Yeah.
And even when we are in Victoria, up in Queensland and Cairns, it's still quite nice to go and shoot. It's just not too hot, just nice. So that's what we're aiming for, is to be able to shoot a lot of the stuff we have to shoot out, especially up in Cairns and that bit, because it can get to be up there. So the rest of it will be studios in Melbourne and some scenes, and the Red Desert over in South Australia.
Very exciting.
Well, you definitely have a lot of exciting projects ahead of you that are coming out very soon. But again, I guess we can wrap up our interview right now, and we can definitely say to all our audience, definitely check out the Christmas tapes once it does get released. It is a really fun and entertaining anthology horror film. And thank you, Vernon. Vernon, for stopping by to talk about this film with us.
My pleasure. No, I've had a ball, and anytime I'd love to come back and talk to you guys on what I'm doing. Please do check it out when it comes out in Australia. You'll enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and all I can say is yo ho
ho. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see everybody all later. Yep. See everybody.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Yep, that's our interview with Vernon Wells. And again, like Dave Sheridan, I can't believe that happened. And I think when you and I were prepping for that interview just beforehand, before he came on. We were both excited but nervous, but I think he pretty much, as soon as he knew we were Aussies, I think he pretty much was very clued in and loved us right away. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
We're just lovely, but again, thank you so much, Mr. Vernon Wells, for taking the time to chat with us and having a nice in-depth conversation. And just, yeah, what a top bloke. Two both of them, two top blokes in my book.
Indeed. And I personally think, Marcey, like, that was the perfect way to end not just this episode of Podcasters of Horror, but also just end a perfect way to end the entire year of the Super Network on, because we got to watch a great horror anthology film and talk to two very awesome guests from it. And yeah, and of course, being a Christmas special episode, we got it out just in time for Christmas.
Yes, we wanted to be festive in the right ways or something. But yes, just take this opportunity to thank everybody who has supported us on Podcasts of Horror, but the Super Network, in all our endeavors. We just want to say thank you very much. Your support means everything, and be excited because we will have lots more awesome content in 2023. Wow, we're in 2020, going into 2023 already. And yes, the team will be back covering all the good stuff. So please stay tuned. And yeah, if you have episodes to catch up on, please go back and listen. You can find everything at supermarcey.com. If you want to find all the links, you can check them out on the website or the link tree, which is linktr.ee/the Super Network. You can find all the Super Network socials. You can find the podcast, the podcast on the different players is what I'm trying to say. You can get all our podcasts on a main feed, or if you just want individual shows, you can find Podcasters of Horror on your podcast app and just follow that one if that's how you prefer. We have all the options available, and yeah, if you want to say hi to me in some form or fashion, I'm generally Super Marcey on the platforms. You'll probably find me, so check it out. Bede, what about you? Where can people check you out personally?
Well, if people want to find me personally, they can find me on my Twitter page while it's still there at twitter.com/BedeJermyn, or my Letterboxd account, which I know is going to be around forever, letterboxd.com/BedeJermyn. And of course, yep, and you can also find all my work over at supermarcey.com with my reviews and columns. And also, Marcey, let's not forget to tell our listeners that they have to listen to both our solo podcasts. Of course, your podcast being After Dark with Super Marcey, and my solo podcast, Bede vs. the Living Dead, which have that are out there on all podcast streaming services, so give those a listen. But if you want to follow my podcast personally on Twitter, you can find it at twitter.com/BedeVSTLD.
There we go. And that's a wrap. So, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. If you don't celebrate anything, have a good time.
Indeed, indeed. Exactly. And we'll see you all in the new year, everybody. Yes. See you, everybody. Bye.